What is up guys, it's Cal, and in this video we'll be taking a look at all the achievements in Uldir and how to get them. All these achievements can be done on at least normal difficulty, and completing the Glory of the Uldir Raider achievement gets you a Blood Gorged Krog mount. Now first off, a couple things to get over with before we get into the achievements. I would recommend getting the add-on Instance Achievement Tracker if you haven't already. This will give you specific tactics on how to complete each of these achievements while also printing out completed criteria in the chat during achievement progression, like when you can kill a boss and whatnot. You do need to enable in the settings for it to print out in the raid chat, however. Now on to what you will need and what would be helpful in getting these achievements. So Demon Hunters are very useful for the first boss Talic achievement. Their glide in conjunction with Fell Rush is very useful, so typically more Demon Hunters for that, the better. Discipline Priests are helpful for the achievement on Fetid Devourer because they can put damage reduction bubbles on people, and then a third tank may come in handy for the achievement on Vectus, but isn't necessarily required. Another thing, Fetid Devourer and Mithrax's achievements are a little more difficult with larger raid sizes. Well, Fetid Devourers is still manageable, but Mithrax may be a pain if you have a large raid size of, let's say, at least 20 people. And finally, you do need at least one person in your raid to have the toy Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron to get the achievement of zek'voz. It is a Nerubian archaeology toy. So now that that's out of the way, let's get on to the achievements. Elevator music. This is the achievement off Talic. To get this achievement, your raid needs to get all 4 Orbs of Harmony around the elevator as it descends in Phase 2. So you may have never noticed this, but as the elevator goes down, there are 4 orbs along the sides of it. If you walk through one of them, then it will disappear for the achievement. So the idea is to DPS the boss down to 35% health to knock him into Phase 2, have your Demon Hunters run against the edge of the elevator until an opening occurs, activate their glide, and Fell Rush to get the orbs as they see them. As far as difficulty goes, this is a pretty middle tier difficulty one in this raid. There are easier ones, but also more difficult ones. Now, one of the hardest things about this achievement is getting the first orb. It's pretty close to the top of the elevator, so if you have one Demon Hunter, they kind of have to guess where it's going to be. So you can have your group spread out and jump at the first orb if they see it as well. Now, if you do fail this achievement, which is definitely possible, by missing one of the orbs, then you have to wipe, and everyone must leave the instance, and then the raid leader has to reset the instance by right-clicking their portrait and then resetting it once everyone has left the raid. This will make the orbs spawn again, but in random locations. Once all 4 orbs are acquired, you can then kill the boss and get your achievement. Parental Controls. Mother's achievement. This one is also kind of random, but doesn't require wiping if you mess up. So as we know, Mother has 3 chambers during her encounter. Now the end of each of these chambers has a button. These buttons need to be pressed in a certain random order, and only one button needs to be pressed in the chamber, even though there are 2 of them per chamber. So for example, the order of pressing the buttons may be 3, 2, 1, or 2, 1, 3, or 1, 3, 2. It's completely random. So towards the start of the fight, you want to send about 3 good DPS through to chamber 2 along with a healer. Kill the blobs that spawn, and then send 1 good DPS from the group into the 3rd chamber. You can really pick and choose how you want to do it, as long as each chamber has at least 1 person in it. And then if 1 person in one of the chambers, you can pick which chamber, hit their button. If the button starts blinking, then it's not the correct first button. If it turns black, then it is the correct first button. When you find the correct first button, have someone in one of the other 2 chambers hit their button. If it starts blinking, then you have to start over by hitting the first button again. If it goes black, then it's the correct second button. Then once you find the right second button, hit the 3rd button. All the buttons should go black. Once they do, kill the boss. You do have to find the correct button order within the first 3 minutes of the fight, because that's when the first room fills with fire. Killing the boss after hitting the correct button order will get you your Parental Controls achievement. Thrashmouth. Fetid Devours achievement. So this one is pretty straightforward. You need everyone in your raid to get hit by Fetid Devourer's Terrible Thrash ability at least once. Terrible Thrash is the tank mechanic that happens every 4th melee attack that Fetid Devourer does, where he'll hit the closest target to his current target with a hefty hitting ability. As mentioned at the start, this achievement may be a little more difficult with a larger raid size. So the idea behind this is have your group stacked up about 10 yards from the main tank and have the main tank pull the boss. Start with 1 raid member stacked on the main tank, wait for the boss to do his Terrible Thrash, and when he does, shuffle them out and have the next raid member stack on the tank. It does happen fairly quickly, so be aware. Also be aware of the corruptions and regurgitation timers. Now damage reductions are very helpful with this, since Terrible Thrash does a lot of damage, which is why shields from Disc Priests are helpful. Now one thing to look out for. Invulnerabilities like Pally Bubble, Hunter Turtle, Mage Ice Block, and so on will not work. You do need to at least take damage from the Terrible Thrash. If you have the Instance Achievement Tracker add-on, then it will print out when each person has been hit, so damage reductions are helpful. Also, it would be wise to complete the criteria for this achievement before the boss gets to 50% health, because at that point, he goes into a frenzy and does more damage. Also, dead raid members do get the achievement now, as long as they got hit by the Terrible Thrash, because before, dead people couldn't get it, but now as long as everyone gets hit by Terrible Thrash, even if they die from Terrible Thrash, everyone will get the achievement once you down the boss. Now we got Bad Blood, which is the achievement from Vectis. It's not terribly difficult. Now if you were never aware of this, when you leave Vectis' room and then peer down the stairs as if you're going to head to Zul, there's a mob there named War Mother Rakali. She's needed for the achievement. You get the achievement by getting her in a Plague Bomb during the Vectis encounter and then killing her. So this is where a third tank may be helpful, but not really a requirement as long as no one DPSs her. So make sure you clear all the adds to Vectis, except War Mother of course. Have a tank grab War Mother and then run into the room. Then Vectis can be pulled. If you're 3-tanking this, then the War Mother tank just wants to stand off to the side to not allow DPS to attack her. DPS the boss until the liquefy phase, and then have the tank with the War Mother stand in one of the Plague Bombs as it comes out. She'll soak the Plague Bomb, and then you must kill her. She has to die for the achievement. Kill her once she's soaked the Plague Bomb, then kill Vectis and you'll get the achievement. What's in the box? zek'voz's achievement. So as mentioned at the start, you need at least one person in your raid with the puzzle box Yogg-Saron toy. You need to defeat zek'voz after using this toy during the encounter. Now, using this toy during the encounter will make small purple circles appear on the ground under players' feet that they must get out of since they hurt, effectively making the encounter more difficult. Now, this one starts happening once Yogg-Saron has seen the puzzle box, because behind the boss, there's a giant projector screen that has Cthulhu appear during phase 1, then Yogg appears during phase 2. So these purple circles that will appear start happening in phase 2. Now, the easiest way to go about doing this achievement is when phase 2 starts, Yogg will spawn and put Roiling Deceit on random players, and the 3 Voidweaver ads will spawn as well. Kill the Voidweaver ads like normal, and once Yogg disappears from the back, use the puzzle box. This means that the fight will become more difficult once he spawns again. So once that happens, the purple swirls will appear under players' feet. Get out of these, defeat the boss, and you get your achievement. Edgelords. Zul's achievement. Now this is one of the more difficult achievements in here. As you're looking at Zul, you can see this gold octagon figure where he starts and where the beginning ads are on top of. To get this achievement, no one must enter the gold figure at any point during the encounter. So being range heavy for this fight is definitely useful since melee won't be able to attack Zul until he gets to 40%, which is when phase 2 occurs. So start the fight off with everyone out of the gold figure of course, and tank pull the ads with some range move. Melee focus the ads during this first phase, while all range focus Zul. Also, in case you were curious, pets do not matter for the achievement. They can of course enter the gold figure. Now when someone gets Dark Revelations, get out of the group like normal, and hopefully you have a priest to mass dispel them. That's kind of no knowledge for this fight. But make sure everyone who has a dispel is getting those little guys, since they will be your problem in getting this achievement. If they reach someone, that person will get feared, and they could get feared into the center of the room, failing the achievement. Once Zul gets to 40%, he'll run out of the gold ring, so melee will finally be able to attack him, and tanks want to kite him around the room outside of the gold ring of course. Now when phase 2 starts, finish the odds off first, but then this phase has Death Wish, which becomes even more difficult to deal with here because it will fear 2 players to the nearest edge of the platform so they can jump to their death. Obviously, since your reps at the ledge, these players must be dispelled quickly, and then the little guys spawn out of them, which must be mass dispelled and just all around dispelled quickly so they don't reach anyone, because as we know, fearing is bad since it can easily fail the achievement. Kill Zul without anyone entering the center ring and you'll get your achievement. Existential Crisis. Mithrax's achievement, and another one of the more difficult ones in here. Now for this one, if you have a rather large raid group, like at least 20 people, it may be beneficial for half of them to step out, the rest do the achievement, then someone who stepped out can start the group again so it's on their lockout, make sure they're the first one who enters the raid, with Mithrax not defeated, and invite any tanks and heals from the first group to do it again. But anyways, on to the achievement. You get this achievement by no one in the raid touching an existence fragment spawned by another player. These are the smaller vanilla green orbs that reduce your annihilation stacks. So with that being said, yes, you can pick up your own, just not anyone else's. So only pick up one if you know it's yours. If you're unsure, don't risk it. Everyone should spread out for the Oblivion Spheres that spawn, and be aware of where you're knocking people out of it so they don't get knocked into green orbs that aren't theirs. Then another thing to look out for is when the transition begins, everyone spawns a bunch of green orbs. So this is a bit annoying for the tanks, because this is usually the part where they're able to use other people's green orbs to clear their stacks, but they can't for this achievement. So then defeat Mithrax, no one grabs any green orbs that aren't theirs, and you're good. Now for the final achievement, Double Dribble, Gahun's achievement. This one isn't too difficult if you have a well-geared group that can at least handle the fights being longer than it usually is. You get this achievement by having no player move while holding the power matrix. The power matrix is a thing that the upstairs group has to deal with, where they get the orb to the end of the path and slap it in the module. So you want to create 2 groups of 3 people to be the upstairs orb group. 2 DPS and 1 healer in each of the groups. Now if you've done the orb running before, then you're familiar with how this works, except you won't be doing any running. If you're unfamiliar, this is how it goes. At the start of the fight, you'll have your first upstairs group go up the west ramp. Someone click the orb, and once you're in possession of it, do not move at all. Do not use WASD or arrow keys or whatever you do to move. Don't use that. Now there are these cysts around the room that slow you when you touch them. The other DPS can attack these to reduce the radius, and even the person holding the orb can attack them to reduce the radius, as long as the orb holding person doesn't move forwards, backwards, side to side, etc. Now when you originally grab the orb, you do have a 5-second cooldown before you can throw it. Your partner wants to get roughly 20 yards in front of you, so you throw it to them. They must stand on the gold swirl on the ground, the orb will land on them, and they'll automatically catch it. But they can't move once they have it on their character. Then they have a 5-second cooldown before they can throw it, and you keep going back and forth like that until you reach the end, where whoever has the orb can place it in the module by clicking on it. Then the next orb group will go up the east ramp, do the same thing, then the first orb group will go back up the west ramp, and you get the gist of it if you've done this boss before. The giant's beam will come down, Gahun will come out of hiding, the second orb group will go up the west ramp, first group then goes up the east ramp, second group goes up the west ramp again. Once 6 orbs get into the module, then there's no more orb running. So this fight will just take longer than usual. Down Gahun, making sure no one moves with the matrix. If someone has the instant tracker out on, then it should shout in raid chat. But anyways, once you down Gahun with that, you'll get your achievement. And that is how you get the Glory of the Uldir Raider achievement. And there you have it, all the Uldir achievements, which will award you a Blood Gorge Krog mount. If you need any help with the achievement or have any tips you'd like to throw out, then feel free to leave in the comments below. But if you guys enjoyed this video or you found it helpful at all, then feel free to leave a like on it so you can sub to the channel for more videos like this. And I'll see you guys in the next video.